All right. Hey there. Welcome back to the Clarity to CEO podcast. We are here to help women entrepreneurs build businesses with clarity, strategy, and alignment. Now, today's conversation is for the woman who has tried all the right strategies, followed by the frameworks, done what experts have said to do, and still feel like something's still not quite clicking for them. So I'm joined by Marissa Liesen. I say that right, Marissa Liesen?
Yes, you said it right.
Yeah, okay, good. And she's a former COO turned founder coach who now helps female coaches and consultants design businesses that actually align with how they're wired to work and lead. Now, Marissa's work focuses on helping women identify their unique edge in the market and build their visibility, offers, and business models around their strategies and not someone else's formula. So in today's episode, we're going to be talking about what it really looks like to stop forcing strategies that don't fit and start building a business that feels both effective and sustainable. And we're going to touch on her magnetic power code framework. And we're also going to look at how tools like human design can be used in a practical way to support business decisions. So if you've ever felt misaligned in your marketing or like you're working harder than you should be, this conversation is going to help you rethink how you approach growth. So Marissa, thank you so much for being here. Please, if there's anything I missed in your introduction, we'd love people to really, truly know who you are and the value you offer.
Yeah, of course. Well, I can try to give the very quick flyover of my background, my history. I think you covered a good snippet of it there. But largely, I've had a lot of twists and turns in my career. I was in advertising and marketing for a long time, working in agencies and as an executive leader in marketing agencies. At a point, I transitioned more into the operations side of it, which kind of started me down the quest of the COO, world that I was in for several years. And so I spent time as a COO for marketing agencies, and then I moved on to online businesses and like online education type businesses. Boss Babe was one of the biggest that I was COO for. Yes. And in that space, I learned so much about the coaching world, about the online education world, and, just a totally different world than the marketing world. And from there, I decided, well, I'm pretty much growing somebody else's business for them. And I actually love coaching the women, which I was doing sometimes as well as I was there. So I thought, why don't I do this now for myself? And left on very friendly terms, but then decided to start my own thing. So now I work with female founders, like you said, and I'm very, very passionate about helping women step into alignment as they're running their businesses, because I've seen too many men and women, but I'm really passionate about serving women, seen too many people burn out and feel like they're working 70 hours a week for something that's not really providing for them. And, in the end, they're losing their energy and they're losing their sort of joy for it. And I feel very, very strongly if we're going to dedicate so much of our lives to something, it should be joyful and give back to us as well. So that's what I help women do.
That is so good, because I have seen that over and over again where they're so excited. Women are so excited when they start the business, but then, something starts to shift and change for them, and trying to keep that spark for them. It takes a gift and a talent, and I wish I had what you have. So I'm so excited to hear what you're doing and how you're helping women keep that and maintain that core, why behind what they're doing, because we need that joy in order to sustain our happiness throughout the process. All right, so awesome. So let's get started. Marissa, you've had, like you mentioned, experience with both the CEO and now as the founder coach. So what did you start to notice about the way women were building their businesses that led you to that work today? So you mentioned that dip between that joy. So let's expand on that a little bit more.
Yeah. So during my career as a COO, as I was pairing with CEOs, I noticed that when my, partners, my founder partners, when they were really feeling the most burnt out and the most tired and the most sort of like not in their joy, was when they were really forcing strategies that didn't feel good to them. They were strategies that might feel or sound proven in, the business landscape, and people talk about different ways to build your businesses. And they were sort of like following these formulas that are successful formulas. However, for them, it wasn't working, and it was making them feel sort of miserable, to be honest. And then I had a few experiences back in those days where with the founders I was pairing with, they finally came to a point where they said, I'm not doing it this way anymore. I'm going to shift and do it my way. And kind of took the risk to do things in a way that maybe everyone else wasn't doing, but it felt better to them. And then what I saw happen in those scenarios were suddenly the business started growing even more, right? And there is truly a huge connection, I believe, in the success of your business and the happiness of the founder CEO. And so I kind of watched that happen. And then flash forward, I started my own business. And then I sort of like went through the exact same process, coincidentally. Like I certainly didn't see myself going down the path, but I realized I was down a path where I had built a business that wasn't actually lighting me up. And I was like feeling burnt out myself. And I'm like, man, do I just go back into the corporate world, or like what's happening here? And then I realized, no, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing what I watched other founders do during my career, which is I've built this business around success frameworks that work really well for other people, but they actually don't work for me. So you mentioned human design earlier. That was like a big part of my journey. I finally was like, I need to figure out how to build this business around me and what I want and how I'm actually designed to sell and how I'm designed to market, because not everybody is built for, mass content creation and big audiences and some of the ways that we're often taught, a business should be built. And I kind of really got into this phase where I dove into my human design and really started to understand myself at a much deeper level and understand how my energy works and understand what my unique gifts are and what my unique genius is that is truly just mine. And once I started rebuilding the business around that, everything changed. And now I'm the most lit up and happy I've ever been in my business.
That is so awesome. I'm so glad to be hearing more and more people doing this. So let's step back for a second for those people who don't understand what human design means. And let's explain what that means a little bit so people can put that in perspective and how they can apply it to their life.
Yeah. So human design is actually a complex system, you could say. And it's based in a lot of the ancient philosophies of like the chakra system and some astrology as well. But it's definitely in its own league. And essentially you do find out through putting your birth information. So like where you were born, what time you were born. Basically your date, time, and place of birth. And it gives you this map that explains how you're uniquely designed as a person. And it goes into your energy and how you're designed. Like it'll actually tell you it doesn't say introvert or extrovert, but you get to kind of see, oh yeah, I'm actually designed to have alone time and I need that. That's something that everyone is probably very, aware of, like whether they're introvert or extrovert, but it goes into so many things, your energy, like how you're actually designed to build. So for me personally, if you are familiar with human design, I'm a manifesting generator. What that means is that I am actually designed to pivot kind of a lot. And I was making myself wrong for pivoting on my business and feeling guilty about it. And once I realized, oh, actually, I make my magic by pivoting and following what lights me up, and then people come with me, it really made a huge difference in my success and also my happiness in my business. So it kind of touches on so many different angles of how you're designed to move through this world, like when you need space, when you need to be around people. And once you really follow that map, you really step into your power in a way that it's undeniable to me.
Yeah. Okay. So I think I understand that you get access to this basically assessment or test that you can do. And then you find out a lot of these different data points about yourself.
Yeah.
And then you can use that information to kind of determine how you show up in your business and see if you're struggling, if you're feeling awkward, if things are just not lining up in your business. It could be because you're trying to operate in a way that's not in the line with the way you were designed to operate.
Exactly. And my philosophy here is like, if everyone were truly tapped into how they're designed and how I even go as far as to say, it's almost like this second intelligence system. Like we've all been conditioned and, and taught through our lives to use our brain, right, for everything, pretty much, right? And our brains are super powerful, and I definitely use my brain a lot. But really, our whole body is this full intelligence system. And most of us are not tapped into it. But once you do tap into it, which human design teaches you, like how to actually read signals in your body of if something's in alignment for you or not, if this is a good decision for you or not, et cetera, then you start to get guided down the correct paths for you when you're actually listening. So it kind of gives you this more well-rounded perspective of your full intelligence system. So you're still using your brain, of course, but now you also have these other kind of parts of you that you can tap into that is quite intelligent as well. So you start making better decisions for yourself and honoring your needs better and choosing things that you're actually good at versus trying to force yourself into things that you're not actually good at.
I love this. I feel like it makes so much sense how being able to understand how we're wired will make us so much better at being able to run our business. And of course, naturally, all the other areas of our life as being a wife, mother, whatever else that we are operating as, being able to tap into and understand those areas where we're struggling. It could be things that we're trying to control that we shouldn't be controlling or trying to, whatever it is that we're doing.
Absolutely. Yeah, we all, like, I was probably one of the biggest control freaks ever, right? Because control is our sense of safety. Like it's how it's always, almost always coming from a good place, especially with women. And when we're trying to control things, it really just means we're trying to keep ourselves safe. We're trying to keep things predictable for us. And we're trying to manage our landscape because it's always shifting and there's always so much that we're having to respond to. So yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's so good. All right. So let's go back to businesses. We're talking about entrepreneurs. So a lot of women feel like they have followed the right steps in the path of starting their business. They've done the right things. They listen to the podcasts, they listen to the different videos on YouTube, read the blog articles, but they still feel off in their business. Could be a human design, but from your perspective, why does that happen?
Yeah. So I think the human design really gives us a lens into what I'm about to say, but why that actually happens, it's a combination of you're forcing yourself into visibility strategies that you're not really designed for. So my example for me is I'm really not designed for mass content creation and giant audiences, but I came from a business that we built all our success around mass audience strategies, right? So those are strategies I know really well. And so when I tried to apply that for my business, I helped build an 8-figure business. I can do it. And when I did it for myself, it wasn't landing the same way. And I was feeling quite frustrated, which is another signal for me and how I'm designed. Frustration means this is not aligned for you. And I started realizing, actually, this isn't like, I'm not built for this. Like I'm built for intimacy. I'm built for deep conversation and going to events and meeting people in person and, essentially building my business in a small audience, intimate way, right? So that's one. So it's visibility. Your second is sales. So how are you structuring your sales process and your customer journey and all that to be aligned with how you sell best? Like some people do amazing on a giant stage or, on a webinar or something where they're pitching and they're, doing kind of the webinar style pitch. And that really, really works for some people tremendously well. And then for others, they're like, why can't my launches flop every time? Well, they're probably not designed to sell that way, right? But if they were to have a different sales process that was maybe a sales call or something like that, they might crush it. So it's visibility, sales, and then also how you're designing your offers as well. Because, again, you're designed for certain things. So for me personally, again, I need intimacy. So if I have, I don't do that well when I'm teaching into a big audience that I'm not getting a lot of two-way feedback. It's mostly just me broadcasting out. That doesn't really feel good to me. Like I don't leave those situations feeling like really fulfilled, right? But I do leave a situation where I'm doing a lot of deep coaching with somebody and I can see the transformation and we're actually in interaction. I leave that feeling very fulfilled. So a lot of times what I find, and I did this myself, is that we design our businesses and our offer structure and our business model around what we see to be successful in the industry, but it's actually not what brings us joy and what brings us fulfillment. And so we're forcing strategies that just kind of fall flat for us, and then we start to lose our sparkle for our business.
I totally see that. And I think what you're talking about here, maybe I'm making an assumption, but I'll ask the question and then you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're talking about is that you mentioned, I think either you mentioned it before when we talked earlier, or I've read on your website that you help women, you talk about helping them find their unique edge instead of following generic formulas. And so what does that mean? And how does someone begin to identify their, unique edge that they have?
Yeah, so that's almost like another nuanced layer to all this. So, which I'll totally explain. So, essentially, what I was just describing, like visibility, sales strategies, and offer design and offer, business model design, those are where people often feel, maybe they follow a formula that wasn't right for them, and now they're in a structure that doesn't really make sense for their unique strengths, right?
Yeah.
And then there's also the idea, and they work together. There's also the idea of most of us, if not, I would hazard to say 99% of us, have other people that do what we do in our industry, right? We're not the only ones that do what we do. And so you have competitors. And what winds up happening, I see this a lot, especially in the online space and in the coaching space, is that there are a few kind of like the top, you could say 5-10% of people that are very visible and that their business models are quite visible out there, and people copy them because they see, oh, they're successful, so why don't I copy what they're doing? And I totally get why somebody would do that. Like I did it myself.
Well,
but then it's not, then you're just kind of blending in with everybody else. You become this comparable option. You're not the one that people want to hire. You're just like everybody else because everybody's kind of following the same formulas and everyone looks the same. So when you find your unique edge, the point of that is, like, how do you stand out in your industry? Like, how are you different from everyone else that does what you do? And how do you become like the one that people want to hire, like the undeniable choice for what you do? And you become that by finding your unique edge in the industry, essentially what makes you different from other people, like what makes you stand out. And what makes you different and what makes you stand out is it always comes down to you being authentic as possible, and leaning into your unique strengths and your unique genius, and not trying to borrow what you're seeing happening in your industry.
Yeah. I did. Now you didn't directly connect them, but I can imagine if you're helping your clients, would you start with kind of like that human design and connect, see where they lay, and then basically use that as a guide to help them find their unique edge? Because I can imagine, like you're saying, there's many other marketing and business strategists out there just like me. But if we were to do that human design, they're probably different in how they're built and what lights them up. So being able to operate in our own zone of genius, we would show up differently and attract different audiences.
Exactly. And you see these concepts through a lot of different business philosophy. Like if you've ever read The Big Leap, right? Gay Hendricks, like he talks about your zone of excellence and your zone of genius. So it is really about what is your zone of genius? What are you exceptional at? And I like to describe it to people as this is the thing that feels so natural to you, but feels exceptional to others or transformative to others. Because a lot of times too, what happens is we don't actually see our unique genius because our genius comes fairly naturally to us. And so we don't think it's special because it's actually when we're in the easiest thing for us. So we think, oh, it's got to be hard. We have this like weird thing that we all do in our brains of like, oh, if it's too easy, then it must not be valuable. But actually, if you when you are really in your genius, it is actually quite easy for you. It does come naturally to you, but it's what other people find very exceptional. So yes, so when I start with a client, I actually have my own proprietary way that I pull in human design through a business lens, through entrepreneurs specifically. I call them your power codes. So I first look at their power codes and I look and understand like how they're designed. And then I look to see like how much of their business is reflecting their genius and reflecting their unique design and their unique strengths, and how much are they actually working against themselves. So we kind of do an audit there. And then once we kind of get, they understand, I understand, this is what you are uniquely designed for, then we layer on their lived experience as well, because that's certainly a factor. It's like, okay, you have this like, I like to say you're kind of born as this like ball of gifts and talent that you are innately born with. But then on top of that, we have our lived experience and our wisdom and all the things that we've built on top of that over the course of our lives, right? So you take those two things together and it's like, okay, what is your unique lens in your industry? Like, how do you do something different than your peers? Like, what is your intellectual property? How do you develop something that is, unique to you, that if somebody wants this type of process, they have to work with you because it's your IP? And essentially, how do we make them stand out in their market so that they do become the one and they're not the comparable, option to everyone else?
I love that. I love it. It sounds like, it sounds magical. It sounds like it takes a lot of work. How long is that like? It almost sounds like marketing therapy.
It's so funny. Actually, I had a client recently who's this like super career woman, and she's now a founder herself, but she left me a note in our mastermind chat, and she was like, "This is better than therapy." I was like, okay. So yeah, I mean, sometimes it does feel like that because it's really about like, I think so many of us, if not most women, like we just don't always see how amazing we are and how gifted we are. And so when you have somebody reflecting that to you and encouraging you and working with you on how do you design your business around this, it really feels therapeutic. It does.
Okay, one thing you mentioned earlier, which I'm like, okay, it's was like alerts for me in a sense that I want to find those zones of geniuses that give us the ability to tap into those gifts and those skills to make work feel easy. Like you mentioned that it feels so easy, so good to be true, too good to be true that it's easy and it's just like it's a breeze to do certain things.
Yeah.
When that lines up with the gift that the service that we're delivering, my concern is sometimes women, especially women, we're already underpricing ourselves. So we're not valuing the services we're delivering enough.
Yes.
Especially when what we're doing is so easy to us, then we're like, okay, then I can't charge somebody for something that only took me 5 minutes to do, even though our 5 minutes is their like 3 hours.
Yep.
And so how do you tap into that at all, helping women to, yes, get easier and better at what you do, but still valuing what you do?
Yes. So I find that's a big one. It's actually, I've had to work through it myself. And so, yes, that's almost always a conversation with my clients for sure. And what I find works, honestly, is just a little tough love. Like they'll tell me a price that they're going to charge. And, as a third party sort of like outside perspective, I'm not in them, like when it's you, it feels very different. So I can assess it from the outside and say, you can double that price. And I know they can because I know the value of what they're doing. Right. And so sometimes it's like, oh, I can't do that. And honestly, I think when it comes to sales, I actually don't recommend that people put a price that they can't get any conviction behind because that's going to show up in the sales moment. They're going to shrink a little bit if they really don't feel convicted on the price. So a lot of times what I have people do is kind of throttle it up. So when I think you can double that price and then I see them go like, oh, like I could never, I'm like, okay, then we're going to do whatever. It depends on what it is, but $500 more now. So go out there and can you do it? Yep, I can do it. And then the next time it's like, okay, let's add another, so we kind of throttle it. But I think you do need, whether it's a peer group, a coach, something, you need somebody helping reflect this to you because a lot of times, we just don't value ourselves the same way other people value us.
Yes. All right. So good. Okay. Good to hear that is part of the process as well. Now, for those that don't have you there to be their marketing therapist for them, how can a woman tell when a strategy that they've been trying to execute doesn't actually fit her version of when she's just, or when she's executed it long enough, it needs to move on? How can she tell when she's just not aligned and it's time to move to the next strategy and try something new?
Yeah. Well, I can say that with human design and with my power codes, every person has a unique way that your body actually tells you this is not for you anymore. So that's what I was talking about with your full body intelligence system. So for example, I'll give you an example and then I'll give you a more general answer as well. But if you are really tapped into this, it's basically your guidance system on this, it's time to move on or you're good where you're at. And for manifesting generators, which is what I am, it's frustration. It's not anger. It's like specifically frustration is the cue that I'm somewhere that I don't belong anymore. So it could have been something that was aligned to me aligned for me before. And then suddenly now I just find myself feeling really frustrated every time I'm doing this thing. That frustration is my signal. For some people, it is anger, right? For some people, it's bitterness. But we all have our kind of brand of what misalignment, how it signals to us in our body. And then on the flip side of that, satisfaction is when I know that I'm in alignment. So it's not like happiness or excitement, it's satisfaction, right? So everyone has their cues, and your power codes or your human design will tell you this. But if you don't have that information, then truly it's about paying attention. It's about paying attention to how things make you feel, because your emotions and your body really do give you feedback. And most of us are so used to like kind of overriding our emotions and overriding what our body's telling us, and like mentally like going with, no, but I gotta, just keep going, or you gotta stay consistent, or you gotta do whatever. And sometimes all we're doing when we're doing that is just taking ourselves further and further and further down the wrong path. And that's where burnout comes from. Once you're so far down the wrong path, that's when your body's just like shuts you down. It's like, I'm not doing this anymore. And then you burn out, and then you have to walk all the way back and start over. So it's like you can get ahead of the burnout by just understanding your signals and understanding and accepting too that this thing that you thought was really smart, this strategy that you thought was going to work, or this strategy that you thought was the best thing for your business, it's not maybe. And it's like, okay, then I have to accept that and I have to move on and change it.
This would be so helpful for so many women to have, because I feel like there's a lot of women that either stop their business altogether or take longer in getting to the next stage of their business because they feel like they're the failure in the process, and they're not. It's just they just don't understand how they're wired to operate and how to respond in certain, or how to adjust to such a situation so they can respond better. So this is powerful.
Yes. Yeah. And once you're really like just tapped in, a lot of it is about tapping into yourself, because, again, so many of us, we learn from so many people in business, right? We're always listening to podcasts and reading books and watching people on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever. And it's like, we're always watching other people, and we're taking in all these strategies and all this information. And maybe I should do this, maybe I should do that, versus like, we actually have so much intelligence built into ourselves, like just trusting yourself. And like, I'm not saying don't learn from other people. I do all the time, but like, be discerning about when you should be using somebody else's information and when you should be tapping into your own intelligence, and like, staying in your lane and following your intuition and following your own smart strategies.
Yes. Okay. And so let's talk more about this, what you call the magnetic power codes. So tell me about what that means, what that looks like, and if you have like a tool people can use to tap into that.
Yeah. So basically what I did, because human design is very complicated, it took me a long time to actually learn it, certifications and like learning, right? So I don't think everyone needs to do this, and not everyone is interested in doing that, but I really, really believe that people need this information. So what I did was I sort of like built an algorithm around taking that intelligence and creating a report that's specifically for female founders that gives them like, here's how your human design translates across, very normal parts of business, like your visibility channels and your best, your best marketing strategies, who your ideal clients are. But also it tells you like, here's what your actual unique genius is. Like, it's coded in you, like, so you can start to tap in. So for example, I realized that my unique genius is actually about community. It's about building community and sharing resources with other people and helping people rise together. Okay. And it's interesting because earlier in my business career, I was not doing that. I was actually kind of trying to do courses and things like that. And it just wasn't that. But now that I have a mastermind and I'm building community and I'm actually following what it says my unique genius is, the results are so much different. And my testimonials are like so much different as well. So it's like people will start to reflect to you that you're in your genius. So anyhow, so this report kind of tells you all that. And then it allows you, I have it sort of built in with Claude AI as well. So you can chat with it and try to understand it more deeply and things like that. And I actually, for your listeners, I do have a special treat that they can get their power codes for free if they go to magneticpowercodes.com /clarity to CEO.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, I will know. I'll definitely be checking out myself.
Yeah.
And so let me clarify for sure. Okay. So do we need to first do the human design and then take those results and put them into your system? Or is this power codes, you're doing both at the same time? We're able to use your system, get our human design, and see where our human design lines up with our business.
Yep, it does it all. So it simplifies it all because, like I said, it's complicated. And I just want this information in the hands of more people so that women, I feel like if women can get more power in this world and, really rise, which we already are. I mean, it's so different now than it even was 10 years ago, right? But the more we can get the power into the hands of women, I'm all for it.
Yes. Now, one of the questions, I know some of my listeners may be asking this too, how does human design and the magnetic power codes, and for some of these people, it may or may not apply, but how does this line up with people that maybe have like a spiritual background? Does this impact or interfere with people who are maybe be Christians, walking with Christ? Does that interfere with religion?
No, in fact, I actually am part of I have a lot of different communities that I'm a part of, different entrepreneur communities. And some of them are very Christian oriented and they very much appreciate this information as well. So personally, I think it's for everybody. And if somebody feels like it's not for them, that's totally okay. But I don't believe it interferes with any sort of like spiritual belonging or anything like that. No.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. Now, last question from a CEO perspective. How do you balance honoring your natural strengths while still making strategic decisions that move your business forward?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I still, like I said, this whole conversation is nuanced, right? Because I believe that you need to use your own intelligence to make decisions in your business. But at the same time, you still need to be learning. And especially with AI and everything, so much stuff is changing now. So I do very much learn from other people. And I think about or try out those strategies first, like kind of conceptually before I actually start doing something. And I really tap in, and I know now how to do this. And you'll learn as well if you get your codes. You'll kind of understand, like, is something for you or is something not for you? And I kind of gauge it, like, is this for me or is this not for me? Whereas in the past, I might have seen, a successful person, they share a strategy or they share their point of view around how you should do something. And I would like take it for a gospel. I'm like, okay, well, if so-and-so is saying this, then I'm going to do it too. Now I take the information and then I'm like, okay, but now I need to like kind of check it against my own stuff. Like, is this really for me or is this not for me? And the more you get to know yourself, the more natural it becomes. I know myself so well now that I can almost like be like, I'm not going to even waste my time with that because I know it's not good for me. But yeah, it's kind of like you still take in information and knowledge and, all that, but then you check it against yourself before just running down a path because somebody else said to do it.
Yes, I love this because it sounds very much like what I try to coach my clients with as well, is having that strategy for your business. If you know where your business is going, if you know your business and you know what you want for your business, then any opportunity that comes along, just because it sounds like a good opportunity doesn't mean it's the right opportunity. You have to check it against where your business is going. It's the same thing. Check it against yourself too, because you are part of your business. So it's just another layer of just clarity, another layer of alignment. Because it could be aligned with your business, but if it's not aligned with who you are as a human, you still feel off and frustrated and all the things that you get with not being aligned. So this is so good.
Yeah.
And I love that we were connected, got the opportunity to meet and have this conversation. I appreciate you coming and bringing this advice and guidance. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you for the opportunity to have this conversation. I love connecting with people. And this is actually something I've learned about myself, is that a situation like this where you and I get to connect and talk about interesting things. Like I'm going to come away with this feeling so much energy, Okay. So yeah, it was a really good time for me. So thank you.
All right. And then please remind people where they can connect with you, as well as the website for them to do their magnetic score themselves, the codes themselves.
The power codes. Yeah, sure. So you can follow me on Instagram at Marissa Liesen, and that's 2 S's in my name. And then they can get their power codes at magneticpowercodes.com / clarity to CEO.
Awesome. Yay. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll make sure to include all the links so there's no typos and they'll get to you. And I appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Marissa, thank you so much for this conversation. I think so many women are going to feel a sense of relief hearing that it's not always about doing more. It's about doing what actually fits them. This actually connects so deeply with the work that I do within the strategy services that I deliver for my clients. One of the biggest mistakes I see women make is trying to copy strategies that were built for someone else's strengths, personality, their energy, or business model. And when we skip the clarity work first, understanding how we naturally communicate, lead, and connect with people, we end up building businesses that feel exhausting to maintain. So what I love about this conversation is that it reinforces the idea that strategy matters, but alignment matters also. The goal isn't just to grow. It's sustainable growth that actually fits the CEO running the business. If this episode resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on where you might be forcing strategies that don't align with how you naturally think, work, and lead. Because clarity doesn't just come from following a plan, it comes from building a business that actually works for you. Make sure you check out that magnetic power codes, free little thing that she has, free offer that she has. See where you line up with your human design and where you are specially designed to be and how you are operating, and see what you can adjust in your business and how you're showing up as a CEO and running your business. So if you're feeling that tension, frustration, any misalignment, you might be able to find how to fix that right away with your magnetic power code. All right, so as always, stay rooted in clarity, build with intention, and lead like the CEO you are becoming. And I will see you next week.